yeah, so time to ski, and I do my first pass. After my first pass, I'm like, well, you did better than, in 2017. At least there's that, you didn't fall on your first buoy on the finals. So I was like, okay, well, at least that's fine.
Right.
And then so I started at 14, 13, 12. Right before 11, I'm in the water, and I'm like, look around. It's cool. Like, it could be the last. It could be an important memory for you. Just it's a big deal, and so I have that picture in my mind now, that when I was sitting in the water before going to 11, and Regina had done 3 at 10-7, so it was a big score. I was like, all right, just breathe in and take time to remember this.
All right, welcome back to the Water Ski Podcast, episode 20. Crazy to think about that, we've already done 20 of these, but it's cool. It's been very well received, and it's been a pleasure. So why not continuing? Today's episode is with Manon Costard, the current world champion in slalom, a dear friend, and I think one of the most interesting and ambassador-like figure in our sport. Manon is super competitor, obviously world champion, but also has won the Masters, and is really one of the most competitive competitors that you'll see out there on the water, on the Pro Tour. She'll say a lot of times in this interview, just go in and don't let go. And I think that's a good statement of her commitment to the sport, her commitment to being the best athlete that she can be, and certainly, the force to reckon with right now. Just by, simple as that. If you're world champion, you have that target on your back. But anyway, super cool to share this first part of a 2-part interview. And here Manon shares about, her journey, like many other guests, how she got into the sport, some of her early tournaments, and been growing up and really being an overall skier until not too long ago, and then noticing, like it often happens, that shift between, okay, this is my event now, and now this is my event. And for her, slalom actually was the last one in the process. But I won't spoil her too much. I'm just so stoked that Manon decided to sit down with me and chat. Is someone that I really respect in the sport, and it was just a true pleasure. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to give a few shout outs. There has been a lot of podcasting going on in water skiing, which I think it's really cool. Naturally, this is the Water Ski Podcast, so any podcast about water skiing, I'm going to geek out on and spread the word. So for those of you that are not aware about this, obviously Marcus Brown has his Flowpoint TV on YouTube, but he also has a podcast on Apple Podcast, where he basically has all the interviews that he has been doing and has done over the years. So you can look Flowpoint Podcast on Apple Podcast. Now, there's also Distance from Center. This is done by John Horton from Ball of Spray and Trent Phillinson. And you can find that on the Ball of Spray website. On the right, top right corner, you can see DFC. So you can click there and see their episodes about whatever topic they have in mind that week. And then now a brand new podcast that just launched yesterday called Spraymakers. So here is Chris Rossi and Trent Finlayson from what appears to happen, going really deep into some ski stuff, right? So they just started their first episode yesterday. I listened to it. I highly recommend it. very, very well done episode. So go and check it out. And so don't limit yourself to the Water Ski podcast. Go out and listen to what the other people are doing as well. And then finally, just a quick reminder, if you have partaken into the Thomas Gustafsson Awesomeness Picture Printing Raffle Apple Podcast contest, we'll be raffling the winner tomorrow on Instagram Live at 3 p.m. So March 4th at 3 p.m. Florida time, 9 p.m. European time. Get online and see who wins a nice print of Thomas de Gasperi's Saturn picture signed by Thomas Gustafsson. Okay, pretty long intro. Let's jump into the interview. Enjoy. All right. Manon, welcome to the Water Ski podcast. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Happy to be here. I'm good, really good. Excited to be on the podcast. It's exciting.
Well, I'm stoked to have you here, that's for sure. We are here at the boarding school. We're recording this, what is it, February, mid to late February. Mm-hmm. What's going on with you? Are you skiing?
Yeah, I'm skiing. Just started back mid-January to, train for Mumbai again. So yeah, just step by step. The beginning of the seasons are always a bit hard. So, taking your time and trying to be patient and hoping that I can be sort of ready for Mumbai.
Okay. Well, I saw you ski yesterday. You seem to me like you're pretty ready. Have you been skiing in Florida? Sort of like getting ready here?
Yeah. So I came back 13th of January back to Florida. I had done a month back at home to, take a good break and see a bit of the cold and the snow and the family and the friends. So I'm back to Florida skiing at the boarding school and training.
Special place this, huh?
It's great. The lakes, no matter how windy it is, you're always gonna have a good lake to ski on, and just the conditions. It skis amazing, so very cool to be here.
Good. Well, we're gonna kick us off with the usual question. How'd you get into skiing?
Well, I got into skiing thanks to my family. I think it's like the same story for a lot of people. It was mainly my dad. We would go to a camping site on a big mountain lake in the French Alps, and we would spend the summers there. We had their caravan, and it was a club for skiers. So everyone had their boats, everyone had their caravans, and you'd just hang out and go and ski. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So I have amazing memories from there. And I actually started skiing with Marion Eno over there.
Ah, okay.
Because our dads were good friends, and so they took the habit to ski together, and so we started, both of us, to skiing together. And it was funny. I actually had the chance to have my first set recorded on video, and I saw it not so long ago. And I'm just, on my skis and super excited, just jumping around and like a big smile on my face. And I'm 3 years old and, just having a good time and loving it. So yeah, that's how I started, with my dad loving it. I was born, and after I was maybe 2 weeks old, he would grab my legs and try to make them move as much as possible to make sure that they were working good, to be an athlete of some sport, some sort. He was big into snow skiing and water skiing. So I started with doing both, and I loved both. And I just, had some opportunities to be going to the nationals in water skiing when I was 7, for the young category. So I started getting into that, more competitive circle in water skiing. And when I was just, 10 to 11, they took me in the first national team to go to my first Europeans.
Oh, wow.
So it went really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, at first it was just completely for fun. Skiing, my parents never did any tournaments. It was just purely recreational.
Yeah.
And just having fun on the water with the family and friends, and that's how I got into it.
So, while you started competing pretty soon, a couple of questions. Did you leave snow skiing aside, or did you keep doing it?
I kept doing it, but very recreationally.
Okay.
You know, when I was, going every weekend when I was little, for a little while, and being in a club, and but yeah, it pretty quickly went to skiing instead of snow skiing.
Okay. And because also connected to that, because you started competing so young, do you still, it sounds like you have good memories of this, just like fun at the lake with dad, just skiing for fun. Did you carry that through, or was it like, okay, now I compete and that's what I do, and man-made lake, serious?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a hard one. It definitely started with just fun and family, and then quickly I got in with a coach. It was actually my dad's snow ski coach that was part of the Water Ski Federation, and I ended up water skiing with him. And so quickly I was being coached and trying to be a bit more serious, and so it was still fun, but it became a bit more of, okay, if you don't feel like doing it, you're still gonna go because you're training,
Yeah.
So there was a bit more of a push.
Yeah.
Probably when I started being like 10, 11, when I started going to those European championships,
Right.
Then it was like, okay, you need to go for it, and it was good. I think it's really hard for parents to know when to push and if to push.
Right.
It was, to me it was really helpful, because I don't think I would be here if I wasn't pushed at the times that I didn't feel like training, because sometimes it's cold, you just want to go and have fun with your friends or whatever, and not go and train. And I was tricking like for 30-40 minutes in the cold. That's not really necessarily the thing that you want to do.
Right.
But so I'm definitely happy I was pushed, but I can imagine how hard it is to balance that.
As a parent,
you keep the fun for your kid, but at the same time you want them to use their abilities and become as good as they can, and not let go of something that could be good for them just because they're a bit lazy at some point.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Was it when you started skiing with this new coach, was, like, say, were your parents like heavily involved, or were they more like, okay, this is your coach and skiing, it's down to him? How was that transition?
They definitely left it down to him.
Okay.
They're like, okay, you're gonna ski with him. If you're skiing with him, he's taking care of it, and we're not gonna get in between, because that kind of keeps the coach from really doing his job, right?
Yeah.
But then my mom was still involved. She was taking me to obviously all the tournaments, and she would pin for me, so she would still spend time in the boat, and it was, she was still there. She didn't stop looking out after my skiing.
Okay.
So it was a bit of both, but definitely when I was training with this coach, at least at first, they would let him do his job, and they would not be behind my back nonstop.
Which I think is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a chance to talk to other guests about how maybe nowadays that's not the case. Maybe you have a bit of over-involved parents over, I think that certainly was a good thing that you had going on. You had no choice,
for sure.
But
no, I had no choice, but I was lucky for sure, because it would be a bit too hard, I think, to deal with if your parents showed that you had no choice too much. I think it would make you back off a little bit and not want to invest so much in the sport.
I think it's hard, right? Like you already said, you already seen how hard it would be for a parent to decide when to push and not to push. Now imagine that also involved into your own skiing, it becomes super complicated,
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, so 10, 11 years old, first European championship.
Yeah, and I was, that coach that I was skiing with was really big into tricking, so really big into teaching me the right way of tricking. It was a lot of, repetition of the same movements and things like that. And I ended up winning the European Championships under 14 when I was 10 to 11.
What?
Yeah.
I
In
didn't know
tricks.
this.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. I mean, I remember you obviously being a great tricker, but I didn't know you were that great that young.
Yeah, I was really good very young, and then when I started coming to having to do flips, I was freaked out. I was terrified of having to throw a flip. So it kind of put, you know, a bit of a stop to my ski career, or to my trick skiing, just because it, you know, Iris was showing up and she was pushing really hard and she was amazing in tricks, and I was just taking a bit more time to keep on improving. So yeah, my first 2 years, so I was not even, you know, like 12 yet, and I won my first 2 Europeans in tricks.
What scores? Like, give me an idea of the trick scores.
My very first one, I think I did 4,650, something like that. Yeah.
So we're talking about like line 3s, line 5s.
Yeah, it would be like, line 5 back, line back to back, like line wet back to back.
Oh, that's a good one.
Line O and stuff like that, yeah, and then 5s, and yeah.
Which is funny nowadays. Those because I've seen other trickers doing like few, not many, like line back to back, right? And to me, I've always thought, like, are you just delaying the flip? Like, you know what I mean? Like
that was exactly the case.
Exactly.
And I love those tricks, and I was so terrified. I mean, I spent the people that were, you know, training me must have been going crazy, because I spent, you know, sets and sets just doing wake jumps, and they were like, okay, throw it, and I wouldn't.
Nope.
And I wouldn't, and I wouldn't, and I wouldn't, and I would, you know, spend hours doing that. I must have killed them.
But eventually you learned them.
Yeah, eventually I learned them, and I ended up, in the top of my trick skiing career. I did, I think, 7,600 around there.
Wow.
So I had
that's a good score.
The 2 regular flips, and then the back landing and back to front in the run. And then one time only, I landed a back-to-back mob
There you
in
go.
training.
There you go.
I was very happy, but then, yeah.
That's a solid trick.
It never made it to the run.
No. Yeah, one-time wonder doesn't make it to the run.
No.
Do you remember the set that you landed your first flip?
Wow. Actually, I don't think I do. I should definitely do, because it must have been such a big
relief,
a big
you know?
step. Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I don't.
But
That's funny.
So you said you would not throw it. Was it like once you got over the hump of like actually throwing the ski behind you, then you learned it quickly,
Yeah.
or even then it was like long process?
Well, I didn't learn it the right way, I don't think, because it was never my best, you know, my best flip. It was much more easy for me to do a back to front or a back landing. The regular flip was, you know, I would land on my bum, and but yeah, once I threw it, then it was fine. I wasn't afraid anymore, and I don't know how long it took me, but it wasn't such a long time. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was just, the fear. I don't know why. I had like I was blocked. I was afraid of having my head, you know, upside down, and
yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's one of those things in tricks where it's just like a new movement that is nothing compared to what you've done.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have to get over that hump.
Yeah.
Like when I interviewed Adam and Corey, like Adam spoke at length of how, you know, he was already a 10,000 point tricker, but it took him, I believe, like 2 or 3 years to learn front flip. He said it's just like a completely different thing, and I had no clue, you know?
Yeah.
There are some of those humps.
You have those things that you just don't feel comfortable with, and I'm sure you just start overthinking it, and it just hurts it, and you know, you're in a bad circle where you're just hurting it more and more.
Well, I feel I can relate to you, because I feel our PBs are very similar.
Very nice.
7,980. Yeah.
Oh, you bit me.
yeah. Well, like, it wasn't pretty, trust me. And it took me 3 years to learn my first flip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I learned it with Kiko at the Gasparis Lake, basically skiing next to him, which was really cool. Like, he said, okay, you've been trying it. I never had the fear of throwing it, but I just couldn't do it, you know, like for years. And in the meantime, Nicolas learned 6. Like, we started learning flips together, and he learned 6. It was bad. And then what helped him was, like, we skied together, and he said, okay, try to look at it from here. And after 3 tries, I sort of landed it, major celebration, you know, it was cool. It's one of those cool moments, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine that must be really cool.
Yeah,
and
after
just seeing it from a
hours.
different perspective, you
Yeah.
know, you kind of understand it better. I actually had a set where Clem Lucine did that for me. She showed me how to, because I could land it, but it was just a bad flip.
Right.
So she just went on the water with me and showed it to me just in front of me. It was cool. It didn't fix my flip, but it was cool.
But it's funny how in tricks, like, you have, eventually you start thinking very creatively, right? Like, you're like, okay, how are we gonna get to this? Or, you know. Nice. So we start as trick skier, right? When, and obviously right now you're a slalom skier. When did slalom start to become, I don't know, I don't want to say prevalent, but when you start seeing like slalom was getting better and better?
Well, honestly, pretty late. And I was lucky to have some really good coaches. So the first, you know, guy that I trained with was really big into tricking. So that's, you know, that was why I think I was better at tricking at first. And then I started skiing with Damien Akerer, amazing 3-discipline coach, and he really helped me develop really my overall, you know. So really motivating in trick, jump, and slalom. And actually, before slalom taking over, jump took over tricks. You know, I was never that amazing at slalom when I was doing tournaments. I would do good in training and I would always fight and never really let go. But in tournaments, I could just, you know, follow my second pass at Europeans. It was just, you know, not much. It was not great.
Right.
So, and I just ended up liking jumping quite a lot. Got motivated, and I won the Junior World Championships in jump in 2008.
Oh, there you go. Where were they?
In Peru.
Peru.
Yeah. Actually, Jacinta was skiing, and I'm super proud.
That you beat Jacinta at the Junior Worlds. Dude, that's big.
She's much younger because, you know, so that's the reason. But yeah, it's a funny thing because, I mean, she's obviously the most amazing female jumper that you've seen in skiing, and so yeah, it's my little pride.
Yeah, you should be proud.
So I went from trick skiing to, you know, overall skiing and mostly jump, and then little by little, same thing, you know, depending on the coaches that I had and the, you know, the year that I had. I ended up winning the Europeans Open Championships in slalom in 2011, and that was the first time I ever ran 10-7. No, sorry, 11.
Yeah.
And that was at that tournament, and I did 2 at 10, and it was the best, you know, set of my life.
Right.
I was super excited, and yeah, the girls. There was Nicole Alter, Anaïs Ahmad, Claire Lise Alter, and they were skiing after me, and I guess they were, you know, not expecting me to
run to
you know, it was my PB of 3 buoys. So yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of the point where I was like, okay, I can run 11, and I you know, was so excited to have become European champion, and so I started getting a bit more serious about slalom skiing, and I was already serious, you know, before that, but it really boosted my motivation, I guess.
Yeah. But so 2008 World Junior Champion in slalom, sorry, in jump. And then, so you were like 20 when you won Europeans? 19, 20?
Yeah, well, I was 20.
Yeah.
2011.
Wow, that's young.
I was 20.
That's young. For an event that technically wasn't yours, right?
Yeah. Well, it was slowly becoming, you know, my main event, but it was not yet, for sure,
Yeah, so
I was more of an overall skier, you know. I was going there to ski for the team, and I was, you know, good in all 3, but I was definitely no one was expecting me to do good like that in slalom, for sure.
Did you place in overall as well at those Europeans?
Yes, I came second.
Wow. Second in overall, first in slalom. That's a strong showing, you know. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a good tournament. It was a really good year for me, that. And actually, it was my, I think, last Europeans in under 21, because the ones after were in the middle of, I think it was in South Africa or something, so I ended up not going. And it was in Cesenia, and I remember I won slalom, jump overall, and I placed second or third in tricks. So it was a crazy year for me. It was a really, really cool year that just got me, okay, I need to get, serious. And well, I was already obviously serious, but it was really good motivation to continue and keep trying.
Yeah, no, it makes, and I think, and we'll get to more recent achievements later on, but I think it's probably one of the reasons why you've been so successful, because you didn't see that as like, okay, I've made it, but you saw, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? And that's important for an athlete,
Yeah. I was always like that, just trying to push more and more and not really being satisfied with what I was doing. In training, I was being really hard on myself. Yeah. So I really needed coaches that were patient, but positive. Yeah. Because I was already negative enough for, I was critical and critical. I would be hard and tough on myself. So I needed someone to motivate me and to be, make it more fun. Because if not, I would just, have too much wish to do better and never really be satisfied with how it was going.
Yeah, kind of like always seeing what really didn't work and not really noticing what worked, and having someone to help you notice that something is actually going well, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was the kind of coach that I needed.
Let's go back to Europeans. 2011, you win slalom. Tell us where it was, how you were seated. Give us a bit of the story.
So it was in Norway. It was freezing.
Yes, it was. I remember that Europeans.
Really cold, yeah. And I can't remember exactly where I was seated, but definitely not at the end. I was not part of the best skiers at the time, really, or not consistently at least. And every tournament that I do, and I think I've always been like that, I don't really think about what other people have done, what scores I need to do, who I need to beat. I'm on the water for myself, and I try and focus and be like, okay, I'm gonna give 100%, and I'm going to do what I know how to do, what I know to do best, and try and surpass myself more than trying to focus on beating anyone. So it's more of and just like in training, more of a competition with myself.
Which our sport allows it to do, right? We have buoys, we have time in tricks, we have meters. Like, you can do that actually.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do.
Great. Yeah. I love that, because you don't have to. It doesn't have to be about anyone else. It can just be, okay. My goal is to be as good as I think I can be, and I'm gonna try and do everything I do for that. So for those Europeans, I had no pressure, because I had already skied well in overall. I had done my job for the team. I was like, okay, well, you're here. It was my second Open Europeans.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, practice. Those girls are amazing. Just do whatever you can do and don't let go. And I guess I skied really well. I skied the best I had ever skied, And but yeah, I was definitely really focused, and I knew that I could run 11. I had been doing it in training, and I remember the night before I was in my bed and kind of picturing myself skiing and really, being like, yeah, I think I can ski well, and, really seeing it in my mind. And then on the dock, I was just like, okay, well, go for it. And I did, and it worked out really well. I was really, really, really happy. Just coming out of the water, I don't think I was even on the podium yet. There was I had no clue.
A lot of skiers left.
So happy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was at least Nicole, Claire-Lise, and Anaïs left. And I was so happy just because it was my PB and I had done it at Europeans, and it was so cool. And so it was happiness of having skied well for myself.
Right. Already.
Right away. So that was really cool. It was a big moment for me.
Yeah, no, as you should. So you said you found yourself like visualizing your day after. Do you visualize a lot even to this day? Like, do you use imagery to see your performances?
I fell in my preparation for tournaments in the fact that I only do it right before the finals most of the time.
Okay.
And I should definitely do it more often. But when and sometimes before the prelims too, but I don't do it ever when I'm training.
Okay.
If I do it, it's because I haven't skied in forever, or it's because I'm really trying to figure something out and working on a very specific movement or something like that. But
so you want to see it, you want to feel it, yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
and
sense.
try to, or if I'm really struggling, I'm gonna try and think about it and see where it's going wrong, and try and for it to play fluidly in my mind before I go in the water. It has a huge importance, I think, in high ski in tournaments, and I should definitely push that a little bit more. And
Yeah. No, it's one of the mental skills that athletes use, and I think in skiing is, especially because we don't get to do a lot of reps, like I talked about it with Marcus all the time, like even if you're in your best physical shape, how many sets? You're going to do 2, maybe 3 sets a day? I mean, it's not like golf where you can go in the driving range and throw 1,000 balls to work on your swing, like we don't have that in skiing.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to find other ways to be able to practice about
Exactly.
all of this time that you're sitting here and kind of trying to recover from your sets on the water, and you can't keep training. So yeah, for sure, it's a great tool to use.
Sweet. No, sorry, little parenthesis, obviously, I'm a sports
Yeah.
psychology student, so I was curious. All right, and tell me, like, that sounded like your first big win in slalom, right? Europeans are generally in the summer. 2011, there was Worlds. Was that before or after Worlds? Do you remember?
It was before under 21 Worlds.
Okay, so there was also Dubna that year, 2011.
Wasn't it 2010? No, yeah.
11.
11, yeah.
Yeah. How was the rest of the year? Like, were you riding on a high? What was that feeling after winning Europeans?
It was the end of my season, and I actually had the under 21 Worlds in Mozak, and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Because I had done, those under 21 Europeans in Cesena, and then I went, obviously there was Dumna, and then I went to Norway. So it was a lot of tournaments in a row in which I had done really well, and I think it was just a week after the Open Europeans I had to do that tournament, the Worlds in Mozak, and I was exhausted, and I came second in slalom, and I crashed in jump really big, big time, a really big crash on my on finals, on my first jump in finals. It was the last set. I had done the tricks, I had done the slalom of the tournament. It was the last set. I was like, okay, go for it. I had nothing to give. I just went forward and took a big crash. Yeah. So yeah, I remember I was exhausted. It was a big year. There was a lot of tournament that year, and yeah, I had done really well, and I think I had a big down right after it.
Yeah.
A bit of exhaustion of a big summer. So yeah.
So yeah, you finished the summer. You have the winter, right? Were you already living in the US at the time?
Yeah, I started January 2011. So it was actually, the year that I first started skiing in Florida.
Oh.
Obviously, it could be linked to a good year, and it probably helped a lot. So yeah, I went back to the US. I was in school at Florida Southern at the time.
Yeah.
So I did the College 8, skiing. But yeah, I don't think I did any other, big tournaments that year, or record tournaments or anything. Just College 8 because I was there, with the team and everything. But I took it easy.
Yeah. No, I guess. So yeah, you got back. You did some collegiate skiing, and then you had winter with no events. Like, what was the thinking? Like, like sort of like, shit, now I'm a slalom skier, or like, no, but my slalom is better? Like, you obviously were a European champ.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I kept seeing myself as a overall skier.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And I still loved jumping. I still, came second in overall. So to me, there was no question of, okay, I'm gonna let go of the other events. It was awesome. I hope I can keep improving in slalom, and that was really cool. I decided that I should go to some pro tournaments the next year.
Okay.
And
Seems appropriate.
Yeah. So that was my first, experience with pro tournaments in 2012. But yeah, I kept on training on all three.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you sort of had the switch where you sort of said, okay, slalom?
Well, so I finished my school in Florida end of 2012. I had done a year of pro tournaments that I really enjoyed in slalom, and I was jumping too at those ones, like such tournaments such as Malibu Open. I would go and slalom and jump.
Ah, there you go.
And I would crash and jump.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of made me feel like, okay, well, you should maybe, if you're gonna have some chances to do something in slalom, maybe don't destroy yourself with jumping.
Jump.
But I still love jumping, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing it, and I was jumping well, and then I went to Monroe for my master's, and there I started skiing, a bit more with Freddie, and getting a bit more into, okay, it's called to slalom, we can help each other, and it was actually fun to do that, and I think I learned a lot by having to think about my slalom skiing on my own instead of having coaches telling me, okay, yeah, you should do this, you should work on this. And so I started understanding a lot more, about my technique and about the things that I should change, and a lot more reflection going on, which I actually really enjoyed. And I thought it was really cool to be in a boat and have a conversation with the person in the boat, and not just, I'm not saying that it was always like that with my other coaches, but I needed to understand what I was doing, because there was no one that was gonna explain to me, okay, yeah, you did this wrong, and that's why you're not skiing well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a massive transition. I mean, it's a bit of a different thing, right? Like, you have some coaches that are more like talkative, some coaches that are more like, okay, do this and do that. What do you think? And then you have some coaches that don't even ask that question. But when you're alone, there's no other choice. You have to learn how to assess, okay, this was good, this was not good, I'm gonna work on this next time, right? And it's a big transition. It's not easy.
Yeah, it was not easy, but it was fun. That's fun. Cool. I had a really good time there. We had a great team. We had a lot of people that were involved, and we all tried to help each other as much as we could. So yeah, it was definitely a great place to be at for such a transition, where you go from always skiing with coaches that know so much about the sport that you can just rely on them, and you just, okay, well, I'm gonna listen to what you say, to, oh, all right, I'm on my own here. I've got people that are here to help, but they're not gonna tell me what to do. I need to, and I love that. I think it's a great experience, and I think as much as you need for your development and for the early years, you need really great coaches, and I think it's super important.
Yeah.
At some point, you need to learn how to break away from it, and to be able to be self-sufficient, right? Like, because you go to a tournament, you're by yourself in the water. If you have a really bad first pass, what do? You're not gonna go in the boat and be like, hey, what should I do different, or where should I pull out for my gate? It's very windy, there's crosswind, and I don't know how to deal with it. No, you have to be confident enough in your knowledge and what you do every day, and to be able to deal with all of this in tournaments.
Yeah, there's a lot of sides to that. I think it's such an important transition for an athlete, and it's hard for the coaches, right? And I had a very good conversation on the podcast with Jay, where he said that as he was becoming a better coach, he realized the athletes started to depend on him. But then obviously athletes had to go to tournaments, and he had a ski school, so he couldn't really travel all the time. So then the challenge became, as a coach, how do I make them more independent?
Yeah.
And I think not a lot of coaches are in tune with that, right? For whatever reason. But
I understand it's their job, you know, they wanna be there, and I'm sure some of them don't necessarily want, you know, the people that they coach to just not need them all of a sudden, you know. So it's a bit hard, but at the same time, it's the way it's meant to go. You know, you're gonna help someone reach a really high potential, or like as much of their potential that, you know, they can reach, and you're gonna start focusing on some other athlete that needs also, you know, help for all this, you know, important time in their, you know, athlete's career, and you just need to give, you know, the older one the tools to do it on his own and not, you know, depend as much on. I think it's how you finish your job as a coach, really. If you finish your job as a coach, you know, by your athlete being dependent on you, I feel like it's a big shame. You know, I think it, you know, maybe a quarter of the job is also to teach them how to understand what they're doing, so that they can take it to another level.
For sure, no, I agree, and so you have that part of the equation in terms of the athletes become more independent. That is more coaching side, but then you have the athlete side, and I'm curious to hear because obviously I went through that as well when I went to college, and I went to Louisiana Lafayette, so I think my experience was a little bit different than yours. You were in Florida, you could still go and ski with Coach X, Coach Y. I had the opportunity to go to Bennett's often, and I'm very grateful for that, but my day-to-day skiing was alone. And I grew up skiing with a coach or multiple coaches, and I struggled. Like I eventually learned to enjoy the process, but my first year or two, I was really like struggling with my skiing. Did you struggle as well, or like did your skiing keep going up in that transition?
Well, I think it might have. I think I struggled to be motivated on my own. I guess I had no one pushing me. I think that's what I missed the most. Because at first, I mean, for sure, it was hard, and I remember I would go back to Florida and spend a little bit of time with you know, Boris at the time, and I would, you know, have it was important for me to have someone at some point telling me, okay, you need to do this. But so the transition was like, okay, I'm struggling a little because I don't really know how to deal with coaching myself or you know, having no one that knows exactly, or that I can trust on a person to know what I should be doing. But at the same time, once in a while, I would still have that. So it was an easy way to you know, do that transition, because I would have some weeks where I would have to, you know, work on it myself, and then one week where I would, okay, this, you know, these are the goals, these are the things that you know, the key things that you need to think about, and then I would bring that back and work on it myself. And so it was
progressive, kind of like,
it was progressive.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I did struggle with, I think, being motivated to trick and jump. The slalom was good, you know. I was skiing. I had a lot of people around me that, you know, were into slaloming. The jumping and tricking, it was a little less. It was a little less, and little by little, I kind of let go. And plus, you know, you're jumping for collegiate, so you try and train at 5 foot, and it makes it a bit different. So yeah, that in that way, you know, I think it was a bit. Being less pushed was probably something that I was missing. Or being more pushed.
Yeah, something like part of that difficulty with that transition. Yeah, it makes sense. So here you were in Monroe, it's about like 2012, 2013?
2013. Well, I did 2014 and 2015 in Monroe, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I finished end of 2012 in Florida Southern. Then I took a year. I did some internships in France, and then a year off for collegiate skiing, right, when you transfer from one team to the other. And then 2014 and 2015 in Monroe. There you go.
Mm-hmm. And so by then you were already doing some pro tournaments, right?
Yeah. I did my first pro tournaments in 2012. We had Soaked, we had Malibu Open. I was doing the Rocketman. I did it in slalom, in jump, sorry. So yeah, little by little, I started, getting in on the Pro Tour. And it was fun. I think that's what motivated me too, to keep pushing on slalom and a little bit less of the rest. Because, 2 years in a row at Malibu Open, I crashed in jump. I was like, look, you can't hurt yourself and then try and go slalom and do well. I remember one year we had the tournament in Canada right after Malibu Open, and I had just crashed. And you spend so much money, and I had good chances, and I had better chances in slalom than in jump.
Okay.
So little by little, it just came that way, with focusing more on slalom and trying to be safe in jump instead of pushing the limit in jump.
Right.
So it gives you a different perspective, right, in your training. If you just want to be safe, you're not going to go and jump crazy distances.
Right.
So I think it came that way.
Kind of like progressive transition out and caring more, like starting to do Pro Tour tournaments and wanting to do well. And then you had this thing that I'm guessing you were still enjoying to some extent, but was kind of in the way almost.
The last year I ever jumped, I loved it the most because I was very safe. I would do a lot of just even 3/4 cuts, and I remember it was 2015 Worlds in Mexico. I jumped close to 50 meters, in a 3/4, being super safe, super easy. Nothing could ever happen to me. I felt so good. It was awesome, that feeling, of going and jumping and still doing good and just having like a great rhythm, still having the adrenaline before the ramp, obviously, because you're still pushing a little bit, but it just felt easy and safe and, such good sensation. I mean, it's jumping, right? It's amazing. It's I miss it a lot, but yeah, so that last year, it was all in the rhythm and all in efficiency, and I loved it. Loved it. And then I started hurting my back, and I was like, okay, all right, just slalom, stop, messing around with all of the rest, and just try and give as much as you can to slalom and see where it can go.
And so yet another transition, right? How was that first year just slaloming?
So the first year just slaloming, what year was it? It was 2016. Well, it was pretty good. I can't remember how, I went to San Gervasio and I won.
Yep.
2016, I did the European record. I ran, 10.7 for the first time.
On a ski that wasn't yours.
On a ski that wasn't mine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
That was such a cool year. Actually, so 2016 started by me just being done with my master's. So moving back to Florida, training still, thinking about jumping.
Okay.
So I signed up for Mumbai for jump and slalom. Freaked out at Mumbai for jump. I was terrified.
Really?
I think the ramp felt huge, and I think maybe I was training on the ramp that was a bit too low. And I just showed up there, and there was rollers, and you couldn't do your double cuts, and the ramp felt, super big, and I was terrified. So that's the last tournament I ever did in jump. Mm-hmm. Plus, my back was hurting a little bit too at that time. I was trying to manage everything. So I came second at my first Mumba. With Whitney, we had a good fight. Actually, it was so much fun. It's such a cool event that, Melbourne, the Yara, the first tournament of the year, so early, I don't think you can have much more stress than that, that first set that you go on there. You're like, well, I've heard a lot of people fall, around the first buoy of the first pass. Right. What am I going to do? So a lot of pressure, but such a cool ambience around that, it was really fun. And it was fun because it worked out for me too. I had a good experience and came second. And I think we both ran 11:38, and I think I did half at 39, and she did 1.5 or something like that. And don't quote. Well, you can quote me on this, but I'm not 100% sure of this course, but I think it was around those lines.
Yeah, so I mean, high level skiing.
Yeah.
You know, like for first time Mumbai, you made it to the final, which is already impressive. You ran 38. I mean, that's high level skiing.
Yeah.
First
Yeah,
Mumbai.
it was cool. It was really cool. Yeah, good. I really like that place. It's fun. So yeah, so that was the first tournament of the year. After that, I left my jump skis on the side. I was like, see you later. I did not say hi again. But and then yeah, then Masters, Swiss. You know, it started being the
routine.
the pro tour that we have now, and San Gervasio, the one of the most stressed story that I could have. Show up, without my ski bag. The airline company just lost it. They lost it for a week. So I arrived and I was like, okay, well, can someone please help me out? And so I borrowed. Everyone was amazing, actually. I could borrow boots, handles, gloves, even a ski. I got a ski from someone else, and I, every set, after the first prelims, it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna, move the fin to this, and Freddie was helping me a ton with it. He would watch me ski, and then I would come back. I did not know how to set up a fin at that time.
Okay.
So he was of a big help. I would come back and he was like, yeah, watch you ski. Let's do this and let's move this, and then I would ski again. I was like, yeah, better. And it was funny, you go on the water, you're on equipment that you've never skied on before. Even, the binding, even the bathing suit, I had nothing,
Oh, what, nothing?
Nothing at all. And you pull out for the gate, and just even in the pull out and the way you glide, and before the turn, you already start adapting, because you can feel so much already, and you're so focused on what your ski is doing, because everything is different.
Right.
That your brain, it was pretty cool, because your brain goes 100 miles an hour, and you're adapting, you're taking everything, from everything that you can from, just even a pull out, and you're trying to get the information in to be able to ski. I didn't know if I was gonna fall on my first buoy. It was.
I remember naturally how obviously stressed out you were during the gala dinner, right? Like that was the first dinner where we did bib ceremony. You're like, I don't know, man. And a funny story about that was that you actually used two different skis. Because you started using Claire Lee's, who was using a kind of similar ski as yours.
Same size, yeah.
Same size.
We were both on a 66, so it was Monte Carlo skis. We were both on the 66, and she was so nice to, let me use it.
Which at the time, the two of you, because you won in 2015 as well, right? So the two you were the only two champions of the tournament, because she won 14, you won 15. And then as things started developing with the skiing, I remember telling Freddie, dude, what if they end up being head-to-head one against the other? And sure enough, it happened.
Head-to-head. And even if we're not against one another, I mean, you can't just change skis.
On top of this, exactly.
So it was a big mess. So yeah, the whole struggle of finding another ski begins again. And I got a ski from, she was so sweet. It was a Monte Carlo still, but a 65, so the size down. And yeah, it was scary, but it worked out. And every set I would, with Freddie, change a little bit, and I would adapt more. And I ended up running 10, in the very, very last round of the head-to-head. And that was so cool. I was so happy. It was a huge roller coaster, because I was freaked out the whole weekend. So much stress, but at the same time, you're so focused when you're skiing, because you're stressed when you're outside of the water, but then you get on the dock and you're like, well, I've got to do this. There is no question. So you just go for it, and you go from freaking out to being 100% at what you're doing. So it's exhausting. And then just, having that as a result, it was so cool.
Yeah, no, it was unbelievable. That was like probably the tournament. It was our third year, and we had a lot of success. I think Freddie and Nate ran 41 5 times combined.
Yeah, that was amazing.
But obviously, your story was the one that made it on the magazine cover, remember, that year? And it was just like unbelievable. It was
cool.
Crazy moment. But I guess what I wanted to ask you in terms of that first season, I mean, obviously you had a lot of success, but it was more like the day-to-day, right? Because the life of an overall skier is different than the life of a slalom skier in terms of like how much you have to be at the lake and all of that. Did you notice that difference?
I definitely noticed it, especially since it was my first year that I wasn't in school too.
All right,
So
yeah.
I had so much time on my hands.
Yeah.
Honestly, I went a bit crazy at first.
Yeah, but understandable.
It was hard. It was really hard to adapt to, okay, what am I doing? What, there was a lot of time to feel. So I think, the spring was a bit rough because I was in Florida. I couldn't do much. And, right before Mumbai, well, you have that goal. But right after Mumbai, there's a bit more time. And there's a bit of a down, period. And don't really know what to do. And yeah, so it was... And I was never big on going to the gym either. So that wouldn't, take me any time.
Right.
So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was at Swiss taking care of the house. We had some Koreans in the house, so I was just cooking and doing the just helping out, running the house and doing what I could to keep busy. So that was a bit of a hard time, but then it went to the summer and we had all the tournaments, and I'm in Lacanau in the summer, and you don't get bored there. It's such a cool place, Lacanau, so it's west coast of France, close to Bordeaux. You've got the ocean. I have my family there. We have a house there on the lake. Got friends there, and just everything is great. It's kind of the dream destination for me. So that went well, and it was fine. But yeah, it was definitely hard to all of a sudden, not only just becoming a 3-event skier, but one event, but also not having classes. Being like, okay, well, I'm deciding to invest myself 100% and try and see if I can be a pro skier.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, and it's fine, it's good, and I had decided that, so it was my, it was gonna be how at least 1 year would go, and I would see, if I liked it or not. So it was not too much not knowing, why I had so much time. I knew that it was gonna be like that. I was expecting it, but it was a bit of a strange one to get used to.
Yeah, no, and you had you stopped overall and you stopped school. Like that's a big chunk of your day at the lake, a big chunk of your day in general. Can see how that's a bit, unstabilizing.
Yeah, and you come from skiing college age, so having your team around nonstop and all, never being alone, and always having, if you're not skiing and if you're not in school, you're hanging out with your teammates, and you can just it's a small campus, Monroe, so you can just go and knock on someone's door and you show up and it's all good. And you get to Florida and you're like, well, it's not like that here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of things that started missing, but it's growing up and it's life and it changes, and it I definitely do not regret doing it, because
of course
it was such a good experience, and I got to travel and do all those tournaments and have fun, and I was doing well at them, so I was super lucky. I was having a really good time.
Yeah, I think you chase your own luck, right? So like you were lucky, but because you worked so hard and you had this big goal in mind, and certainly you've been like one of the forces to be reckoned with at every tournament since then, right? Let's talk worlds, shall we?
Yeah,
we should. So you're the current world champion.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish we had a camera just to see your smile right now, but we go audio at the Water Ski Podcast. All right, so tell me about Worlds. How you were skiing before? How was it there? Give us the story.
Yeah, so I had some back issues again this year, or last year. So right before Worlds, and actually right before European. So it was a few months before Worlds. I had to take a few weeks off, completely off from skiing, because I injured my back again. And it scared me a little, because I had done that right before the 2017 Worlds. you know, and so, you know, at those Worlds, just for the story, I just ended up falling on my first buoy on my first pass of the finals.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I had to take 5 months off, you know, for my back, because, you know, I tried to push it, it didn't hold, and then it was just, you know, a big mess. So I realized that my back was hurting again, and I started, you know, being a bit worried about it. But I knew that I wasn't going to make the same mistake that I had done 2 years, you know, before that. I was not going to, you know, just stop for 2 days and then try and ski again and try and push it and think that it was going to hold. So I decided to be super careful with it. I went to see the doctors, and I, you know, took time off right away. And in the end, it actually helped me a ton, because I took some time off skiing. So I lost some time, all right, but I had a team, an amazing team of you know, a doctor and a physio behind me that would help me, you know, just get stronger and you know, pushed me to go to the gym and really told me what was wrong, what I should do, and how I should, you know, heal up, first of all. And then all of the preparation, you know, for my muscles to compensate the fact that my back was a bit weak at the time. And they ended up being so good to me in a way that after a month of that, I felt as strong as I had ever felt.
Wow.
And by far, you know, and it was so good. And, you know, my back healed up in 3 to 4 weeks, just as what they said, just in time to do Europeans. So I had Europeans, you know, a week after starting skiing again. Did really well, and then kept on doing that training for my back. You know, I would do 2 hours of gym before every set, or like an hour and a half.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. I was, you know, for 2 hours at the physio. So it would be an hour and a half of proper workout, then, you know, stretching and massages or whatever, you know, like, you know, I needed at the time. And then I would, I think, have lunch, take a nap, because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Warm up again a little bit, and have my one ski set of the day.
So, okay, so it was gym in the morning with massages, stretching, everything you need to do. Eat, nap, ski.
Yeah.
That's a good life.
So that was like that for, you know, I guess the month before Mumbai, before Worlds. It did felt like Mumbai.
Yeah. Okay. What do you mean there?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
But yeah, so you know, incredible people behind me that helped me get strong. The fact that you all of a sudden are threatened not to be able to ski makes you you know, so motivated to make everything that you can to be able to ski.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get an extra motivation that is in you, and that, you know, you give even more, just because you couldn't. And it was only 3 weeks. It was not a big deal, but still it motivated me a lot more. So very motivated to get better physically. And then on the water, I think since I was every day doing exactly the same thing and the same routine, and being so focused and you know, really trying to make every set count as much as possible, because I knew I couldn't ski twice. The time that I spent on the water was really good, and I ended up training, and in training I had never, and I still have, it was my best month of training, the score wise, and you know, at the end it was going up and up and up. And the week before leaving, I would run 10 at every set.
Wow.
There was, you know, I don't think I had a set where I didn't run it. Or I would, you know, I would do 2 of them, for example. I could miss the first one, or run the first one and then try one again and miss, you know, one.
Yeah, but
I would run one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I would do some 10-5s, which I never really did that much before, because I just wanted to, you know, be better at 10-7. And at 10-5, I was starting to go around 2 quite often, as often as it can be. You know, it was, It felt like often for me, at least. And I remember the last set I had training before taking the flight to Malaysia was, you know, I get to 2 at 10-5, and I fall and I wrap myself in the rope, and I'm in the water waiting for the rope to like tightened up, and I'm like, oh my god, am I just gonna hurt myself right before like the last set, last
Right.
pass, last buoy before going to Worlds? And it ended up being okay. It just like, went through when it kind of scratched me, but it was all good. So a little bit of okay, calm down, just stop skiing, go to Worlds now.
Yeah, you're ready. Yeah.
So I felt ready, physically ready, training, I felt ready. And then you go there and you're like, okay, now what you've done before is good. Now you need to make sure that mentally you're prepared and that you're not gonna, get overexcited because you're skiing well and you feel strong, and you need to stay focused and all of this. So I show up there and I do my first training set, and I run 5 buoys at my first pass.
There you go. Good start.
Because, it was super rolly. We had some ferries going, and it was training. They hadn't stopped. So it was, oh my God. At the end, when I stopped, because I didn't fall. I just couldn't go to 6 because I was so late.
Turned 5 late, couldn't get to 6.
So we stop at the end, and I'm raging. I'm like, I've spent so much time training. I know I can ski very well, and I'm here, and I can't even run my first pass. What is this,
Yeah, right.
So that was, 10 seconds of raging, and then you go again, and you adapt. And, when you have no choice, you have to do it. And, okay, so you just get in the mood where you try and not think about the fact that it's scary and it's bad conditions and it could be dangerous. You just like, okay, well, you need to understand how it works to, do as good as you can at Worlds. So I did my, 4 passes of training. And then I had 3 more sets, 2 more sets a bit on a different part of the lake, not at the spot of the Worlds.
Oh, yeah, because there was another part of the lake where you guys could train, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I did another 2 sets there. And during one set, I had a little bit of a click, where I was like, okay, if I feel, I kind of felt that there was a mood that I could be in which I was not letting the rollers or the boat or anything hurt my skiing. And I was, or at least it would take more of a bad boat path or of a bad roller to make me fall. And I felt like I could mentally be a lot stronger and have a much better result on the water. And so that happened the day before prelims.
So on a practice set.
Yeah, on a practice set.
So was it more like an attitude that you discovered or something more technical?
Well, I did really bad on one part. I didn't run an 11.
Okay.
And it really pissed me off.
Yeah.
And then the next 11, I ran it and it was easy. I was like, okay, you need to be pissed off, or you need to be in that mindset before you go and ski.
Yeah.
Because, nothing could happen on the second one. And I was like, and I talked about it with the doctor that we have in France. And I was like, okay, how can you warm up mentally just so that you're more ready?
Yeah.
And that was super quick. It was the day before the tournament. But it still helped too. And that was part of, I felt strong physically. I felt like I was technically good at that time, and mentally that helped.
Yeah.
So I had those 3 things. And so I went that day and for the prelims, and I just felt strong, and I was like, I'm not letting go of anything, and I'm not scared, and I'm just 100% at what I'm doing. And it's not because there is a wake, and it's not because there is anything that I'm gonna fall. I'm just gonna, not let it affect me at all. Yeah. I had decided it wasn't gonna affect me. So obviously it affects you.
Yeah, of course.
But I was ready to react, and I was more alert, I think, more sharp, and mentally to just, okay, there is something that is making me almost fall, but I can react super quickly because I'm there. I'm in it.
Yeah.
More than I had ever been.
That's cool.
So I skied so well, and so well. I was happy with how I did in the prelims, and I did 4 at 10, and
hold on, you did 4 at 39 in the prelims?
Yeah.
Whoa, big
Yeah.
score.
Yeah. I was very happy, and I cut to. Yeah. I think yeah. And then Regina goes and does 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I was last of the dock.
Top seed.
Yeah. It was my birthday, so I was like, oh, that's cool. I skied well in the prelims of Worlds, and I'm top seed, and so very happy. But then at the same time I was like, well, it's not very cool to be world champion of prelims,
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you've done nothing really. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Okay, be happy, but you've done nothing except making it to the finals.
Yeah.
So very quickly I just tried to understand that I was gonna have a lot of stress because I was gonna be last off the dock, for the finals, and I had done something that was really good already. What were the chances that I would do it twice in a row? With
Right.
Regina and Whitney and every other girl there that were so strong. So it was a lot of, okay, don't freak out. It's the way it is, and just trying to keep going to the gym and keep prepping myself the way I had been doing it for the month, and staying super focused. And then the day of the finals, I have never been that focused in my life.
Wow.
Gina, she's my really, really good friend. I was close to the dock, checking my screws, checking my ski and everything. She comes and she says hi. I did not see her. I did not answer. She had to tap my shoulder and be like, "Oh, hey,
I'm here.
Look at me, I'm here." I was like, "Oh, sorry." But yeah, I was on another planet. I was super focused, and I felt ready. I had never had that feeling, before any other tournament or any other time in my life. I was just not scared, not stressed, like just 100%, to what I was doing. And yeah, so time to ski, and I do my first pass. After my first pass, I'm like, well, you did better than, in 2017. At least there's that, you didn't fall on your first buoy on the finals. So I was like, okay, well, at least that's fine.
Right.
And then so I started at 14, 13, 12. Right before 11, I'm in the water, and I'm like, look around. It's cool. Like, it could be the last. It could be an important memory for you. Just it's a big deal. And so I have that picture in my mind now, that when I was sitting in the water before going to 11, and Regina had done 3 at 10-7, so it was a big score.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, just breathe in and take time to remember this. And so I did my 11. I was skiing. I was not skiing well. It was not pretty. It was just, I had my arms and I was strong, and I felt balanced and I felt efficient and in rhythm, but it was not pretty.
Yeah.
If my head was going, it was fine. I was just pulling, and I ran some 11s between the finals and the prelims that were just horrible. I don't know how I ran them, but I did. I had that motivation in me, I guess. And then we get to I get to do 10. My 1 is not that great, so I'm like, okay, don't panic, just take it easy at 2. And so I don't really turn 2. Like, well, you should have panicked a bit more here. And so I pull. I think I would have never gone around 3 if any other day in my life. It was, and I just gave everything I had, got around 3. My arm just like got stuck in the water, and my shoulders just got pulled back, and I just hold on to the slack, and I was like, okay, run off, all right. And you're just like, I felt like I wasn't myself. I was just super, super focused. That was the main thing about those worlds, and that's the main, between the physical strength that I had thanks to the fact that I had been injured right before, and just the mindset that I was on. It was cool. It was very cool. It's something that I'll always remember for sure, because it was very different from anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it sounds like of course, physically ready. Well, also technically, I mean, you said that surprisingly, that month where you were just sort of trying to get ready for Worlds with a back injury, you also had some of the best skiing in your life. And the focus, obviously, the mental side was strong, and together with that, this positive attitude. Like, I mean, you were looking at the course and at the lake before 38, and you were like, you took a second to embrace it, right? So that's very, I mean, that's unbelievable, you know?
It was cool. I mean, I think it's probably going to be one of the best moments of my life. You know, if you ask me in however many years, it was so cool. I don't even have words, because after that, I was just on a cloud for, weeks.
Well, and then, I'm planning on keeping this podcast going for years to come. So maybe in 2027, we will ask you again,
So what's the best time of your life?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, Bon, like 3:39, there's a runoff to be done.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think all of the gym helped a lot, because I felt like I was, I went back to the dock, super focused, no emotion, nothing. I was just, doing a walk up and down the dock, just resting my legs and trying to, how when you're trying to recover from a series at the gym or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just like recovering, staying focused, and up and downs on the dock, and waiting for them to tell us who was gonna go first. And Regina's first, and she runs 11, and I before the tournament, anyways, before the finals, I had imagined that she was gonna run 10. I was like, I feel like it's doable. Because I had done 4, so I mean, if I can do 4, she can definitely run it. So right. I had imagined myself that she would put a huge score in front of me, and it wasn't gonna hurt me or freak me out. I was just gonna go and do it too. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And so she goes and she runs 11, and she goes around 1, and from where I'm standing, I have, she goes maybe around 2 or maybe not. I had no idea, because my eyes don't see that far. So, I see her Estern at 2, and the boat comes back, and I'm like, I'm not leaving until you tell me that it's 100% sure, the score.
It's 2, yeah.
2 or 1. I want to know. And so they tell me 1. They say, yeah, we've reviewed it, 100%.
Official score 1.
Official score. So I'm like, okay, all right. And I ran 11. On the webcast that I watched after that, the commentators were saying that it was, can't remember the word they used, but it was a miracle that I ran it, so yeah, just rough, but not letting go. So I ran my 11, and then...
What was, sorry, let's stay there. Yeah, probably was, you said you weren't running that great of 11s, but what was your mind into that 11? Did you have any doubt, or were you like, I'm going to run this?
I was not even thinking about it. It was just something that I had to do, and I knew I was strong, and I knew that if I was making mistakes, I would catch up. I was not saying that I wasn't gonna do it and that it was gonna be easy, but I knew that I was not gonna let go of anything, and I felt strong. So I could have, if you had asked me before, I wouldn't have told you, yeah, I'm running it. But because I wasn't even thinking about it, really. I wasn't questioning the fact that I was going to do it or not. I was just like, you go and you do what you have to do, and you don't let go, and it's going to be hard, but
right.
You react quick, and you've done it before, and you can do it, and that's it. So I ran that 11. Oh, and when because it turns out that no one else knew that the final score was 1 on the shore. But when you know that you're 1 buoy away from being a world champion, you're in the water, you're like, okay, don't freak out, don't mess anything up, stay focused. So my hands were starting, I remember my hands were starting to burn a little.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fine, doesn't matter, they can burn as much as they want, I'm not letting go. I'm not letting go. And so I go, and 1 was actually pretty good. And once I realized, that I've turned 1 and I know I'm gonna go around 2, I'm like, oh my god. So I go, I see my ski going around 2, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, that's it. I've done it. And I almost didn't even pay attention to go back to the wakes, just because I was like, oh my God, best moment of my life ever. You know, like I did what I had to do, and so I celebrate like crazy, and it was insane to me. It was the first time I've ever been proud of myself, really.
Really?
Yeah. Something that I was pretty proud of was, you know, San Gervasio 2016 with the board ski.
Yeah.
But that feeling at Worlds, I had never felt it before, for sure. It was pride and knowing that I had worked so hard and done, you know, everything as well as I could do, and then won, you know, the prelims and then the finals after, and not having freaked out, and you know what I've been talking about for a little while now, just like the physical, the mental, and the technical at the same time, and controlling all of that and stuff. And it was just, it felt, you know, like such a, I want to say the best reward that I could have ever had, you know, from all of that.
No, for sure. So. And I think high performance, obviously, it's made of all those things together, and it's so hard to manage them, right? Like you know, nutrition, physical, technical, a bit of strategy, right? I start at 28 or 32, like how's the boat feeling? Mental side. There's so many things that come into making the performance work, and I can see, like, you know, you had some injury you had to take care of, right? Like, so hardship into it, like a month or two into it, like I can see why. I don't know, maybe it's even more than pride, you know, like it's pride, but also like
it's pure satisfaction,
right? Like
you're happy to, because there was a goal. I usually don't really go to tournaments, you know, and my goal at that tournament was, okay, you've never had a medal at Worlds in slalom. You've done really well in many tournaments, but I had never had a medal.
You never had a medal before that, okay.
Yeah, my goal was to get a medal, but I wasn't like, I'm going there to win. You know, Regina is Regina.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wasn't setting goals I'm not really big into setting goals. So I went there not really thinking about it that way. But then after prelims, my goal definitely went to, okay, you need to do that again and you need to win. It's possible. So knowing that I dealt with it the right way, so that I actually, you know, made it, then that was a really, it was just a mix of emotions, you know, of pride, satisfaction, and then, you know, there was roller coasters because I thought I had win, and then I get back to the dock and they tell me, oh, she's actually maybe she's done too. Like, what?
What?
No. So yeah, it was just so many emotions, and then you just feel like every effort that you've done for your whole career, not just like the past 2 months, you know, the past 2 months were hardcore and, you know, proper training for that point, but everything that you've done before makes sense just because you ended up doing, you know, getting to, I think to me it's the best result that I think I can ever have, you know.
World champion.
Yeah.
World champion. Yeah, and I think you said, I don't mean to correct you at all, but like it seems to me like, maybe you didn't have a goal set of like, I want to win or I want a medal, but you certainly, for you to be that focused, you must have had some kind of maybe technical goal or a goal of where to put your attention. You have some objective.
For sure. But I think my objective, and it's the way I do it for all of the tournaments, it was more about, I want to do well there. But it wasn't, you know, I want to do as well as I can do. It's not, I don't really spend time thinking about those objectives. And so maybe, you know, if you had sat me down and told me, okay, what's your goal for Worlds? What do you want to do? I would have been scared to say that I want to win, because I don't want to be, you know, disappointed if I don't.
Yeah.
And what I really wanted was a medal, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But what I for sure wanted to do is be as ready as I could to beat as many people as I could and ski as well as I could.
Yeah.
That was the main. You know, I'm not saying that I wasn't motivated. You know, I was
course.
definitely motivated. But the goal was, to push myself as hard as I could to reach, you know, the level that, as high of a level that I could reach.
Fantastic. Well, why do you say we take a break? And when we come back, I want to hear more what's after. Because you said, you won the best tournament there is. I'd be curious to hear, you know, what's after that. And then we'll talk about the 2020 season and some other stuff. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sweet.
Sounds good.